I hope y'all are fantastic. I'm just waiting for Tanawah to join in. I'm getting this set up. It is a beautiful snowy day here. It looks really pretty outside. I'm excited. I'm really excited to talk to Tanawah. I'm wearing my glasses so I can see your all's comments. Hopefully he's finding this. Oh, sweet. I'm always afraid this isn't going to work.
It's going to work.
Going?
How are you? I'm good. Take this out. I'm echoing a little bit. Hang on. Let me see if I can fix this here.
All right.
Test. Echo's gone. Good. Excellent.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear us? I don't see any complaints yet. This is good. I was going to do it on my other channel too, but I didn't have the phone, so here we are.
I'm gonna send this link out real quick. Let me invite the guys from TikTok over and on. Just 1 second. I'll be right back.
All right, cool. So Tanawah asked me to pull some cards for him to do a personal read. And while I was waiting to start this interview, I pulled some cards. I haven't told him yet though. Oh, good. You can hear me. Thank you. Thank you for that. I should have a pretty good internet connection, so it should be all right. These cards that I pulled looked really good too. It was confirmation for sure. This man has the knowledge we need to take down a bunch of these devil entities. I wonder if I can see. Yeah, I can see. Sometimes I can see, sometimes I can. But yeah, I did the first card out I got about Tanawah was knowledge. He's got a lot of knowledge. It's going to help bring down these devil entities. Hey, Chris, good to see you. Very good to see you guys. Thanks for showing up. It's strange. Yeah, I don't come on live much anymore because they were messing with my live so much. So I just decided not to do it anymore. But to interview Tanawah, definitely. I lost him. I hope he finds his way back. This is looking really good. This reading I did looks so good. It's like victory. It's victory. Tanawah's getting victory. We all are. I love it. I just love it. I don't know what to say. I don't want to do this reading without him.
Can you hear me now? Hey, I'm back, Beth. Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, that's
Sorry,
cool.
everybody. Yeah.
So, where are you headed to next?
Well, we're gonna go do Little Rock first. So we're heading down to Arkansas. Be there for Monday. This is going to be another busy week. At the end of the day, we've got about 4 weeks before I have to go and pick up these affidavits from the 10 consolidation points around the country. And so we're just going to take advantage of the time we got and make sure that we get every single state that we can joined. We by the end of this week we'll have 44. That's a pretty good number. 44 of the attorney generals and 44 of the Supreme Courts across the country served. Yeah. And so then we're thinking that next week, we'll take advantage of a train, go across the top of the country, and we'll serve North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, and Nevada, and that should pick us up with all the lower 48 at that point. So why not? Why not? We have the resource to do it as long as the money comes in to be able to support the travel. We can find the applicants and we can get these states served and joined and make sure that each one of these states are held accountable for the crimes they're committing and the deprivation rights under color of law against the people of the United States. So we want to make sure that people get the rights they're guaranteed to by their birthright. And we're going to hold the criminals accountable for the crimes if they don't want to step up and do the honorable thing. It's as simple as that.
Which it's looking like they don't.
Well, we never expected that they would. I mean, just because we go and we serve the attorney general doesn't mean that I expect that the attorney general is going to say, "Oh, look, we're doing it wrong. We're going to fix it." I mean, that's not how it works, right? The reason why the attorney generals are permitted to, or why they're doing things, because they're permitted to do it. So that's why we have to fight crime from the top down. You can't go out and expect the criminals to stop committing crimes because they're simply following their leaders. If their leaders are criminals, then they're going to be led in a criminal direction. And so the judges, they do have an obligation to take action, right? And they should. I mean, any one of them, if they wanted to be honorable, the honorable thing would be to honor the law and to do the right thing and protect the law and enforce it. And clearly, they're not doing that. And I have a big problem with that, right? I mean, that's not a leader. That's not honorable. That's not good. That's not in the best interest of people. But I didn't expect them to actually change. That would be. I mean, in order to do that, they would have to admit that everything they've been doing their entire career and their predecessors' career, everything they built, all the convictions that they've obtained are all void. They'd have to admit that
their entire an ego death.
Right.
They would have to go through the spiritual work.
Right. And so we don't expect criminals to stop committing crimes. They're criminals, right? You can't expect a scorpion to stop stinging you. It's a scorpion. Don't blame it when it stings you, right? These guys are criminals. We know they're criminals. They're now knowingly and willingly engaging in criminal behavior, and now we're able to bring that to the awareness of people in the United States because, hey, I showed you right here, clearly, simply, the state created a law that functions contrary to the Constitution of the United States. Your agents, you are relying upon that inferior law to abridge a guarantee of the Constitution, thus breaching your oath, and as a result, you're a criminal. But when I notify you of it and you continue to do it, that's a different ballgame. Now you're kind of a piece of shit because now you're knowingly and willingly engaged in criminal behavior. And that's a whole different ballgame.
Well, yeah, they're digging their own hole. They're going to have to pay repercussions for that.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm doing and I can't prevent them from exercising their power. But what I can do is I can show them that should they choose to exercise their power without authority, that's going to make them a criminal. And I'm showing a lot of them that they're criminals. And I want to do this the clean way. I don't want to do this the messy way. That's why I'm going very slow. That's why I'm very methodical in this process and making sure that we dot all the I's and cross all the T's and that we don't make any mistakes in this because I don't want to do this the messy way. The messy way is going to be we take these criminal affidavits, we start converting them into criminal complaints, we start holding trials for judges and prosecutors across the United States for the treasonous acts they're committing in open court every single day against the people of the United States. That's not the path I want to go. I want them to just accept the fact that they're criminals, and if they want to be a leader, if they want to be an honorable, if they want to, believe that they're not a piece of shit, then don't act like it. Step up and do the honorable thing. I had to do it. I mean, I keep telling everybody that I was on the other side, and I woke up one day and said, "Man, the things I'm doing is in violation of the very promise that I made to the people of the United States." I had to do something about it. No one has been on my side. I've been standing by myself for 9 years. My oath wasn't it didn't guarantee that I was going to have reinforcements or anyone was going to stand with me. It was an individual oath that I took, and my honor tells me that I had no choice but to do this. I don't care who's standing with me or against me. I have an obligation to do it, and so do they. And I simply want them to step up and say, "All right, I'm going to be honorable, and thus come and stand next to me, and let's fix this country." Or two, we're going to hold you accountable for the crimes you commit because you're nothing but a criminal. And I'm bound to come after criminals. That's what I do. But remember, We only need one Supreme Court justice, and this is over. If we get any one of the 9 United States Supreme Court justices to sign this writ that I delivered to them on September 29, 2023, under the case Tanawah Downing versus State of Washington, if any one of those Supreme Court justices sign it, it's over. We won. Because it only requires one signature. It doesn't require oral arguments. We don't need majority. They don't need one justice can sign the writ that's sitting on their desk that I delivered to them, and this is over. We will see 700,000 people released from prison, sent home to their family where they get the love and support they need, and we can get America out of slavery institution once for all. Mr. Thomas could sign this, he could bring honor back to himself. He could actually do the things that I know he wants to do and has been looking to do that his predecessor actually got to do by removing the segregation issue in the Plessy versus Ferguson case. That was why Thomas went to law school, was because he wanted to free his people. And he has an opportunity right now to do just that. He could step up, he could sign this writ, he could retire in obscurity, and no one would ever be the wiser, and he could be a hero. He could be the hero that saved the country. I don't need glory. I'll give it all to him if he'll just sign the damn writ.
I can understand getting into an occupation and kind of falling into this weird groove of how things were set up before you got there.
Yeah.
I've had it happen to me in the medical community.
Yeah.
I had to fall out. I was a physical therapist. It was all wrong. And I had to fall out. But there's a certain point where you're like, this is all wrong. You've been doing wrong. It's not that you feel like you're absolved from any kind of responsibility, but there's a point where you're like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I accept the fact that yeah, it's probably ignorance on both sides. The people, we forgot our rights because we forgot what we were meant to believe in, what we have faith in, right? We ourselves are responsible for it, because just as I said in live just a moment ago on TikTok, we must step up, and men are just like me. We must step up and we must defend everyone in every circumstance, in every instance, against every chain that binds the people. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what they did, because whatever chains we place upon one of our brothers and sisters are the very chains that we or someone we love is someday going to wear. Because any freedom that can be removed from one is a freedom that can be removed from all. And so we have an obligation, men, to stand up, to take action when we see that someone is being oppressed or someone's being taken advantage of. Or because if we don't, then we're aware of the crime being committed, and we may as well be the very person pulling that trigger because we permitted it to continue.
Over and over again.
Over and over. Yeah, yeah. And so, I had a question this morning come in. Someone was a little concerned about getting me an affidavit because they're like, well, what if they retaliate against me? I said, do you think they're not retaliating against you right now? I mean, the thing is that if the question is what can they do to me, then you've already lost, right? You've already lost.
Well, not only that, but enough of us have stood up that just a few, like, they literally can't target us all at the same time.
No, there's 40,000 judges across America, and there's 330 million people. Those 40,000 judges have no power over the people. That's why the people have power. We make the decision. They're scared to death of us. I guarantee you right now. I've been in these courtrooms they've heard me say the things I'm saying, shows that the treason that they're committing. They're scared. They're nervous, right? But remember, just as George Orwell said in the book 1984, a tyrant will rule by fraud or force. When the fraud is exposed, all they have left to rule by is force. They're using force, right? That's all they got. That's the only play they got. They're trying to keep us from believing their lies by just simply threatening us, yelling at us, and that's the only play they got, because every tyrant is the same. They all act the same way. And that's all that they're doing, you guys. It's nothing but threats, intimidation, coercion, duress in order to cover up their lies, to try to make the fraud not be further exposed before to prevent the mass drop. But we're going to drop this mask. We've already exposed them, right? Bear in mind, you guys, for those of you who maybe don't follow me or maybe aren't aware of what we're talking about here, when a state chooses to enact its own alternative legislation and substitutes it for the guarantees of the Constitution for the United States of America, that's sedition. Because sedition is defined as the speaking or writing of words, such as law established, in order to cause disaffection to the Constitution to procure its alteration other than lawful manner. There's one way to change the Constitution, and that can be found in the special amending procedure of Article 5. Any other way is an act of sedition done by a traitor to the nation, by definition. So when a state does decide that they're not going to follow the procedures and processes established, the obligations that they have codified in the Constitution for the adjudication of crime, because they've enacted a law that says that they don't have to do it, and then they direct their agents, a prosecuting attorney or a judge, to enforce the inferior state statute that deprives you of something that's guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America, that's a crime now. It's called deprivation of rights under the code of law. And it's Title 18, subsection 242, which states any person who, under the color of any state statute, ordinance, custom, or regulation, deprives any person of rights secured by the Constitution commits that crime. States don't have the authority to be able to alter, amend, or destroy the Constitution of the United States, because that would mean that the state's laws are more powerful than the Constitution of the United States. But to what purpose is the establishment of a supreme law of land that protects individual liberties by limiting powers of government, if that powers of government are not restrained by the very object in which they're to be restrained? If the states can exceed the very powers that restrain them, then to what purpose are those powers even created? Why do we have a constitution if the states don't have to follow it? Right? And so that's not consistent with what the American people believe in. We don't believe in the United States of Washington or the United States of California. I didn't serve my country fighting for Texas or Alabama. I was fighting for America. And America is made up of 50 independent, non-sovereign states with a central governing structure. These states gave up their sovereignty to join the Union and subject themselves to the supremacy of the United States Constitution. They are not sovereign. They are not able to act in whatever manner they see fit, because they are not a sovereign state with the ability to act autonomous without any governing law. They subjected themselves to this premise. The only thing that makes America America is American laws, you guys. That's it. The only thing that connects New York to Florida is the Constitution of the United States of America. So when we fail to follow the Constitution of the United States of America, we see a breakdown and fracturing of the nation, such as we do today. We've got a number of states that are acting in direct willful defiance of the established and codified code of conduct agreed upon and put into place as a contract by and between the people and their government in how to govern us. Direct willful defiance of the will of the people. So now you have this prosecuting attorney that's relying upon an inferior state statute that's depriving a person of a right guaranteed by the Constitution. And I'll tell you what that is in just a moment. But when he goes to a judge then and he says, hey, judge, I want you to, enforce what I'm asking here, even though I'm relying upon an inferior state statute that violates the Constitution and thus breaches my oath, the obligation that I had, the promise that I made to the people of the United States that I would protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and I guarantee those rights. Well, that judge has a duty and responsibility to make sure the power he exercises is consistent with his authority. He cannot use his power based upon someone else's abuse of power. Well, and if he does, then he himself is depriving of rights due to his negligence, but now he's established a conspiracy to deprive of rights by and between himself and the prosecuting attorney. Now we have a very, very serious offense, because when you have that particular offense that occurs in conjunction with a kidnapping, the punishment as prescribed by law is death. And when you take a person into custody without having the proper documentation in place in accordance with the Constitution, that is a crime of kidnapping, and it is a federal offense 1201, because you're holding the victim over for ransom in the form of bail. When you go to their
happened to almost all of us.
Everyone, every single criminal adjudication since 1884, when the United States Supreme Court came out in a ruling called Hurtado versus California and directed every single court within its purview, every single court in the United States of America, that they do not have to have an indictment by a grand jury consistent with Clause 1 of Amendment 5. That means that every single act of every single court within the purview of the highest court in the land is not acting lawfully, because the highest court in land introduced fraud in 1884 because they wanted to enslave the people and re-enslave those people that were set free, as a result of the Reconstruction Amendment, because justice, unfortunately, is nothing more than a term that was created by slave owners in order to protect and preserve their property. Justice, as we believe in it, isn't real, because justice would never take one side or another. Justice is neutral, it's fair, and the laws apply equally to both people. So when the state chooses to take a side, right, and it's the side of the accuser, and thus deny the accused the right to defend themselves in the very proceeding that exists for their protection, don't be surprised when innocence suffers in prison. And if we were to open up the criminal procedure manual right now, you guys could all do it. Open it up. Written by a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals judge, so a federal appellate judge, right? If you open up the preface and you go down to paragraph number 4, it says, most prosecutors across the United States agree that as much as 15% of people in prison are innocent. But that's an acceptable deviance because our system isn't perfect. what happened to the nation that Benjamin Franklin spoke of when he said that it's better 1,000 guilty go free than for one innocent man be made to suffer. And yet we have a system that says, oh yeah, 15% of them are roughly innocent. We know that. Sorry, it's just luck of the draw because we don't have a perfect system. My challenge to the system, and certainly that Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals judge, is before you call something imperfect, I would first suggest that you use it the way it's designed to be used. Don't blame it for your incompetence or your laziness because you're not following the rules. You're not following the procedures. You are bypassing the only thing that protects the innocent from being punished, the grand jury proceeding, because you feel that it's necessary to secure conviction based upon an arbitrary and capricious statement from someone that has never been validated, has never been confronted, and now we have innocence is suffering. If that number is correct, if 15% is correct, that would mean that there's roughly 600,000 people across America today that are suffering in some form or another, pre or post conviction, innocent, in a nation that guarantees freedom. That's not what the American people believe in. That's not what I fought for when I served this country. And that's not what I'm going to permit this country to continue to proliferate any longer.
Well, that's
Because
a
I have an
nightmare
obligation.
to walk around thinking you could be a law-abiding citizen and still end up in prison. You know,
Anybody in America right now can be arrested for any arbitrary, capricious act by government. They will not have an opportunity to be able to confront the accusation against them because the accuser is what's known as information. It's nothing. There's no person. And when information becomes the accuser, because that's what they're doing. And I probably should explain because there's probably some of your viewers that doesn't understand exactly what I'm saying here. But what happens with information is an officer searches you, right? And he finds drugs on you. Let's say completely lawful. He finds drugs on you. Who is accusing you of a crime? Well, the officer is. Can the officer be the accuser? No, he can't because he represents the state. And anytime the state is a party in the cause, the state can't be the judge in the cause. So the dilemma with California was, well, what happens when a state agent, right? Police officer, prosecutor, judge, what happens when a state agent is accusing you of a crime and they can't be the accuser? Well, they had to bypass. They had to create some way that permits the government to accuse you of a crime without the government being subjected to, retaliation or collateral attack, right? So they created information. They said, okay, this officer is going to reduce his information into writing in the form of an affidavit, and at common law, an affidavit is considered truth, and it's presented as truth. The officer says, yeah, this information is presented as truthful, factual, and correct. And then he takes it in front of a judge, not in front of a jury of one's peer, not in front of that's the purpose of the grand jury. The purpose of the grand jury is to determine whether or not there's even probable cause to assume that crimes. What they do is they determine whether or not the state is exceeding the power authority that the statutory imposed on in their act of allegation, right? It's the check and balance that exists to make sure that prosecutors can't just charge you for whatever they want, with whatever punishment that they demand, and then threaten and intimidate you into pleading guilty because they don't even have any evidence to prosecute you on because they don't have an accuser.
It blows my mind we've been putting up with this for this long.
Our nation has been putting up with this ever since 1628. This has been repeating itself in our nation since 1628. Thomas Jefferson spoke of this exact issue 3 separate times within the Declaration of Independence. 3 separate times. You see, what was happening in 1628 was we, the colonists, were subjected to the stamp tax. And if you guys aren't aware of it, it was extremely unpopular amongst the colonists because we were being taxed without representation. We didn't have representation in the parliament because we were nothing but a penal colony. So we couldn't send, people to represent us in there. And so the king's like, well, let's just tax the prisoners. Let's just tax all the criminals, right? But we weren't able to represent ourselves and say, no, we don't want to be taxed. So it was taxation without representation. And so the king, created a stamp tax, and
we had to pay the Boston Tea Party. I remember that from history.
Yeah, the Boston Tea Party was part of the way that we retaliated against it, but it was extremely unpopular. Another way that we retaliated against it was that no jury here in the colonies would prosecute anybody for that offense because they're like, he didn't do anything wrong. We don't even believe in this anyway. So the king, nobody would prosecute anybody for this particular offense, and it made the king mad. And so he's like, well, if you guys aren't going to find him guilty, then I'm just going to eliminate a jury process, and I'm going to allow my people to arbitrarily bring you up on this, and I'm going to have my people prosecute you and find you guilty, because he switched us to what's called admiralty law. We all know that there's 2 different jurisdictions of law in the Constitution. There's admiralty law and there's common law. Admiralty law deals with contracts. That's all. It's just contracts. So in 1933, when our nation went into bankruptcy and we established the Fed system, they shifted us into admiralty jurisdiction because bankruptcy deals with contracts. Contract law is admiralty jurisdiction or bankruptcy. So so we were switched into admiralty jurisdiction when we went into bankruptcy. We will remain in admiralty jurisdiction until we come out as bankruptcy, right? Until we destroy the Fed system and so on. But nonetheless, we are in admiralty jurisdiction, and unfortunately, in admiralty jurisdiction, that is a court martial. It is not you don't have the right to a trial by jury because admiralty jurisdiction doesn't provide it. Now, I'm not saying this is right. I'm just trying to tell you guys this is what's happening, right? So that you can understand why 98% of all criminal defendants don't even get to tell their side of the story because they're threatened and intimidated and forced into pleading guilty in this sham process that is in direct violation of the obligations of the Constitution for the United States of America. Article 3 of the Constitution says the trial of all crimes, with the exception of impeachment, shall be by jury, and the trial shall occur in the state where its crime is said to have been committed. Nowhere in that does it say that you can adjudicate a crime other than impeachment in any manner other than a trial by jury. And yet 98% of all criminal defendants here in America, all across country, are denied their right because they are threatened, intimidated, and forced into pleading guilty by an abuse of power from a government agent who is abusing their powers in a threatening manner in order to formulate a contract through illegal means with the threat of future bodily harm. That is known as extortion. You guys, extortion. You cannot formulate a contract through the use of threats, intimidation, coercion, or duress. Duress is a justifiable defense for a crime, a breach of contract, or tort. So when a prosecuting attorney comes up to you and says, hey, if you don't plead guilty, I'm going to send you to prison for 20 years. Or if you don't plead guilty, I'm going to give you these other charges. What they're doing is they're using their powers abusively in order to get you to comply with what they want. So they don't have to take you to trial because they don't have evidence to do it, because they don't have an accuser. They can't bring you in front of a grand jury without an accuser, because the grand jury is going to say, well, who the hell is... So the process that we have in place today is designed to enslave.
That's interesting.
So
I never thought of it that way.
But once again, remember, so our country experienced this in 1628. This was one of the founders, one of their greatest concerns for our nation was what was known as a trial by affidavit, because that's what was happening to them in 1628. They were being brought up to trial by an affidavit, by information, trial by affidavit. That was the stamp tax. That's what created the Boston Tea Party. That's what taxation without representation means. It is a trial by affidavit, trial by information. So when you're brought to trial by information, what happens is that once again, someone accuses you of a crime. An officer then takes that information, reduces it to writing in the form of an affidavit, presents it to a judge, and says, Judge, I would like you to hold this person over for this offense. Well, that judge, unfortunately, works for the same body of men that the prosecutor, the law enforcement, the CPS, the very body of men that's profiting off of the involuntary servitude of these people once they secure the conviction. So that same body of men cannot be presumed to be neutral and biased to act as a judge to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause, because they have a desire to proliferate their industry and benefit from their illegal acts, because they're eliminating the one thing that places a check on their power. They took it away. So there is no check on state power because the state has consolidated the power into one single body of men's hands. You can't win in a trial by affidavit because you can't confront truth. You can't counter truth. So if the information is being presented as truth, we don't know if it's truth. Unfortunately, we don't know, because the person that's presenting the information, the one that's taking the oath, because remember, Amendment 4 says that no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation. So you cannot issue a warrant without probable cause supported by an oath or affirmation. But that oath must come from a witness. So when someone calls up the police and says something happened to them, the police officer takes that information down, presents it to the judge with their oath, saying, I, officer, attest that this is truthful, factual, and correct based upon my oath. That is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, because there is no oath or affirmation, because that officer was not a witness. He cannot, because he doesn't know if it's factual, because he wasn't there. He has no fucking clue. And we need to understand that all of these warrants that are being issued based upon an oath taken by an officer who simply records what he's told, the only oath that he can say is, I can attest that this is what I was told. He cannot attest that this is what occurred.
Oh, exactly.
And he's presenting it as though this is what's occurred. And now what happens, everybody, is that officer says, oh, this happened because this officer said it happened. This officer doesn't know what happened. He has no clue what happened. because that's the purpose of the grand jury, is to give the accused the right to confront the accusations against them in a fair and neutral process without depriving them of their liberties and their freedoms without due process. What happens with the information, and this is happening prolifically across the country, guys. Every single state is doing this. The federal government's doing it. There are more than 700,000 people across America today that are imprisoned illegally and unconstitutionally on direct facial constitutional violations because they never had an indictment by a grand jury in the arrest that was made against them. That means that the arrest is unconstitutional because it's not following the clearly prescribed procedures codified in the Constitution of the United States that's necessary to perform the arrest. That means that when the arrest is unconstitutional, everything that derives from it must be unconstitutional, guys. You cannot have an unlawful act committed and results in a lawful outcome. If you break the law, government, in the pursuance of an outcome by your breaking of the law, you have resulted in a broken law outcome. We have hundreds of thousands, we have millions of people total that have been illegally and unconstitutionally deprived of freedoms that they're guaranteed by direct facial constitutional violations by 33 states across this country. And I'm coming after them. I'm going to take them down, or I'm going to die trying. But I'm going to take them down because I've been doing this for 9 years. They haven't got me yet. They've cut forks on motorcycles. They've stolen my property. But you know what? I'm still standing here, states. You ain't got me yet. I got 42 days, states. 42. If you can't do it in 9 years, you ain't gonna do it in 42 days. You guys know where I'm at? You guys are weak because you're just a bunch of criminals, man. And I'm not scared of criminals. And I'm trying to make sure that all the men of the United States understand that you don't need to be scared of criminals either. You don't need to honor criminals. You don't need to stand up with them, walk in the courtroom because they're nothing but criminals. And if criminals are leading us, then we're going to be led toward criminality. And that's going to produce an environment of crime, which will produce a society of criminals. The people are not to blame for the criminality that exists because we're simply following our leaders. So that's why I fight crime from the top down. We must go to the leaders and we must say, you guys are criminals. You guys are leading us in the wrong direction. And we're not going to permit criminals to lead the people of the United States. So you're going to either, one, return to the established rule of law, obey the will of the people. We will not compromise. Duralex, sed lex. The law may be difficult, but it's the law. You will obey every bit of it, or you will not be in a position of leadership. You will not be in a position of authority, and we will certainly not honor you, and we will treat you in the same manner as any other criminal will be dispatched, especially under a treasonous act. Because when you choose to enter into oath that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, and then you refuse to enforce the body laws that govern this nation, that is an act of treason committed in open court. These are very, very serious offenses that are being committed by our public officials across this whole country, blatantly in our face every single day. And I'm not saying that these people that are in prison are innocent. I'm not saying that they're even good, you guys, because I don't know, right? I don't know who's innocent. I don't know who's guilty. But what I can say, right? I can say they're not guilty because guilt is a process. You must follow that process. And government, if you do not follow that process, you cannot secure guilt. So if you're going to act unlawfully, then don't expect that anything that you produce is going to be lawful. And so, we can nullify and render void a massive, massive number of judgments. We can restore the liberties of a massive number of our brothers and sisters, get them out of these institutions that we call a sweatshop in China, but a prison here in America. We do this under what I'm doing. I have the argument. I have the case. We're sitting in the United States Supreme Court. I'm ready to go. I just need you guys to back me up. I need you guys to get behind me. I need you guys to support me. I'm not asking for money. I'm not hell, I don't even care if I'm known. I will gladly pass on all the glory to Justice Thomas if he'll just sign the fucking writ and give you guys the freedoms that you're guaranteed. But I'm tired. I'm tired of arguing with criminals. I'm tired of trying to convince criminals to stop committing crimes. I'm going to just either let them be criminals and we will dispatch them accordingly, or step up in the next 42 days, get over here. I've shown you what the law states. I've drawn a line in the sand. You guys are clearly operating outside of it. And if you continue in 42 days, when I return to Washington, D.C., you will be held criminally liable for the crimes you commit against the people of the United States. And there won't be a single person that isn't going to understand the destruction that you caused and the tyranny that you produced, the lives that you've destroyed and killed because you wanted profit off of your illegal acts. Judges, prosecutors, attorneys, and anyone else associated with this fucking system. And then after we're done with this, then we're going after the corporations that you built, guys. Because when you build a corporation and then you limit competition in what we would call a monopoly, right? By creating a consumer group that we call prisoners, right? And you take those consumer group and you put them into your store to buy your product at your price, and that price is above 20% of the average price in the competitive market, and you are protecting it from competition. That is a monopoly, and we are going to secure those assets because those companies were built by the very people that you're doing, and we're going to make sure that those people have a revenue stream because they built those corporations. And all you guys that have profit off of it, CCNA, Core Civic, Geo Group, AT&T, Victoria's Secret, General Dynamics, those corporations are going to be owned by the very people that built those corporations that you enslaved and that you paid, in many cases, no money whatsoever. Because remember, we have 140,000 prisoners in the state of Florida. Those prisoners are making the chipset for General Dynamics fighter jets. Those prisoners are answering the help desk phones for Northrop Grumman, for both for-profit companies. How much do they get paid to do that? Not 1 cent, not one single cent. That's not justice, that's slavery, right? We have female prisons that are sewing the tags on Victoria's Secret underwear. They don't get paid a cent to do that. That's not justice, that's slavery. We have prisons in Texas that's making the hamburgers for McDonald's hamburgers. That's not justice, that's slavery. So when we say that we're a free nation, I'm going to say to all of you, open your eyes because you're full of shit. We are not free, but we can be. Can be, but it depends on what we believe in. Do we believe in this institution that is slowly undermining the laws we put into place? Because if those laws got their way, they would all be out of a job because those laws has declared that all men are to be free. Or is it the laws that set us free? Is it what binds the nation together? Is it the only thing that connects New York to Florida? Is that what we believe in? Or do we believe in what judges say? Do we believe that judges make laws, or do we believe that people make the laws? Because that's a very important question, because that's the heart of this issue. Because common law, right, is made by the people. When you look at the separation of powers, the legislative branch, Clause 1, Article 1 of the United States Constitution says all legislative power is vested in Congress of the United States, consisting of a Senate and House of Representatives. So all power to create law, because that's what legislation is. So legislative power, all legislative power, which would mean create, amend, destroy law, all power to create, amend, or destroy law is vested in the legislative branch. No other branch of government can create, amend, or destroy law. So then the second branch of government is the executive branch, you guys, executive branch. And they're there to enforce the law. They don't create law. They do not create law. They create orders, executive orders. But remember, guys, orders don't affect the people. President cannot order the people because he's a servant to the people. Orders do not affect the people. Do not get yourself tied up with that. President cannot create an order that affects the people because that would be a law. So don't get confused thinking that the president can order the people, because he can't. But that's a very, very important thing to consider, because in June of this past year, the United States Supreme Court came out in a ruling called Chevron deference doctrine. And they basically told the executive branch that, hey, executive branch, you don't get to create law. Because in 1982, the Supreme Court came out and created this deference ruling. And they said that, yeah, if the executive branch isn't clear, if there's ambiguity in the law, that they can create policy, right? And then they can go out and enforce that policy that clarifies the law. So, so in 1982, we have, the executive branch, the prosecutors and attorney generals that are basically told, okay, if the law is ambiguous, which is ambiguous in and of itself, but if the law is ambiguous to you, if you're not clear on what it means, then guess what? You get to now amend the law. You get to do whatever you want so that you can secure as many convictions as you can under your policy, and you can go and enforce that law, that policy that you're now calling law, because only law can affect the people. Well, consider the fact that we have had an 800% increase in the prison population in 30 years. It's called the mass incarceration phenomenon. Roughly 30 years ago was 1982. So what has led to mass incarceration phenomenon, other than the executive branch being able to run rampant and do whatever they want by saying, oh, it's not clear whether or not we have to have an indictment by a grand jury, therefore we're not going to bring it. We're going to create policy that says we don't have to do it. What I have to say to the executive branch is if you're not clear on something, then I would suggest that you go to the branch of government that is legally and lawfully constituted with the authority to be able to amend law, because you can't. Because everything you've done since 1982 has been unconstitutional, because you have no authority to create law. You have no authority to create policy. You have no authority to amend the law. And the judicial branch had no authority to tell you that you could. And fortunately, we secured that ruling from the Supreme Court in June, where they did say that. Yeah, executive branch, you don't get to create law. So we got that. But what we're working on now is the other half, because the third branch of government is known as the judicial branch. They are there to administer the law, right? They're the administrative branch. So when the administrative branch creates rulings, because that's what they create, but remember, rulings you can't rule over the people because they're also servant to people. So rulings only affect those that are being ruled, judges. Judges are the only ones that have to follow the rulings, right? But when you take a ruling and you call it law, called case law, well, that's an oxymoron. Judges can't create law. They can't legislate from the bench because all legislative power is vested in Congress of the United States. So when a judge creates a ruling, calls it case law, and then tells the people that this is law, that's unconstitutional because it's created by a branch of government that has no authority to create law. Judges cannot create law because they cannot legislate from the bench. Legislative power is vested in the Congress. So now we have a massive number of judge-made rulings that's been called law, that's been placed at the foundation, that's removed the Constitution of the United States and directed all these states all across the country that they don't have to do what the Constitution of the United States says that they must do because the judge said that they could create law, which they can't. So when a judge does create law, such as they did in 1884 in Hurtado versus California, where they said we don't have to have an indictment by a grand jury, they said states you don't have to do it, even though the Constitution of the United States says in Clause 1 Amendment 5 that you must have an indictment by a grand jury before arresting someone and holding them over for a capital or infamous crime. When the court made that ruling, called it law, and removed the Constitution of the United States, the procedures that are codified in it, that was unconstitutional because the judicial branch has no authority to amend the Constitution of the United States because that must be done by an authentic act of the people in accordance with the special amending procedure of Article 5. But when they did that and they directed all the states to follow their edict that is now unconstitutional for the various reasons I told you, then the states decided, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We can imprison people, enslave people at a massive scale now. We don't have to follow the rules. We can be lazy and just threaten them, and right? We don't have to do anything. We can bypass the very proceeding that exists for the protection of the innocent, and we can arrest anybody for any reason we want with any punishment that we demand because we don't like them, because they're our enemy, right? Whatever. We can have husbands and wives decide that they're going to have a divorce and they're just going to abuse the system by saying this happened to me, and that other person is going to prison for the next 10 years, and every single bit of their assets, their children in custody of them, is going to be stolen from them without them even having an opportunity to even be able to confront those accusations. It's as simple as that, and it happens every single day in family court, every day. I guarantee you that there's people in this video right now that this has happened to, because it's happened to me. I was a multimillionaire when this started. I owned a big engineering firm. I was making $870,000 a year. My divorce, I didn't even get a pair of socks in it. I didn't even get my passport. Not one thing out of multiple houses and got. But you know what? I don't blame her for it, because first off, I wouldn't be the man that I am here today doing the things I'm doing without the experience that I had to go through, because that was what was necessary for me to prepare myself, because I have the knowledge and education to be able to do this, but I had to experience it first. I had to experience what you experienced so that I can fight for it, because no one will fight for something they don't believe in. So I had to first go and believe in something, have faith. And once I did, now, because I came from government, I can understand government, and I know them better than they know themselves. I know their deceptions. I know their tactics. I know their lies. I know everything about them. And I've been studying them for 9 years, very, very intently, because you never go into battle with an unknown enemy. That's a certain way to be defeated. I used to be special operations military. I was special operations Navy for 8 years. You never go to war against an unknown enemy. I've been studying this enemy for 9 years. I know it. I know everything about it, and I'm going to destroy it.
Did I tell you I pulled some cards for you?
No, but I'm ready.
The first card I got out was knowledge. Yeah, I pulled some cards right before we did this interview to see what was up with your whole mission. You told me you wanted me to pull a few.
I did. Yeah, I mean, guys, we can find truth in so many different places. You know, I mean, there's truth everywhere we look, and I get it from some of the strangest places. You know, there's here on YouTube. There's someone, and I hate to go after competition, Beth, but
I don't have competition.
But okay, but whenever you see a white feather, we know spiritually that means it's a message from God, right? It's a message from God. So if you see a white feather, here's a message from God. And so, I'm always excited because I see a white feather from White Feather Tarot, and she always channels this knowledge to me. And always, she's so amazing in it that I love to see the white feathers, because I know what that is. I know that the white feather is, I've got another channel message coming. So, we can find these messages from all kinds of different places. Music, especially, because remember, music is nothing more than a person expressing their feelings when they're down. And when do we find God? We don't find it in the peace and tranquility of life, right? We don't find it through the acceptance of mediocrity or status quo. No, we find God in the trials and adversity of life, right? If we're called to follow Jesus, if he's the one to follow, then why would we expect to go any way other than the way he went? He went through hell. Why would we expect to go any other way? Because it's through hell that you come to know what's good. Without evil, there is no knowledge of good, because it requires evil to bring about the understanding of good. Because you can't know good unless you've experienced bad. So Socrates and Aristotle, they believed in something known as pharnesis, and it's the highest virtue that man can have, and it can't be taught. It has to be experienced. You have to learn it from your experience, but it's the highest virtue. And what happens is that it permits you to have sensual perceptual sensitivity to the issue, because of the knowledge that you've generated from the experience that you've suffered. So when we talk about suffering, when we talk about adversity, these trials that come into our life, you guys, what you need to understand is that those aren't bad. Those are a blessing, you guys, because it is in the trials and adversity that you harvest knowledge and wisdom. You can't become wise through peace and tranquility of life. And that's why we need to embrace the suffering that we go through, because the reason why we're suffering is because we need to be given a different perspective so we can help those that are suffering around us. When I'm making $870,000 a year working for government as Homeland Security, as a traitor to the nation without even realizing it, abusing all of you and looking down on all of you, you guys didn't exist. I mean, the homeless were homeless because they're lazy, not because the system is holding them down. Because here in America, how can anybody be oppressed? I wasn't, so why would I believe in something otherwise? So, when God wakes you up, he's like, you know what? I just want you to go down there and I want you to learn what they're going through so that you can believe in it, because I know that you can address it. Because how else can you bring people up unless you send people down to help them? They say that there's two types of fools in the world. There's those that choose to believe in something that isn't real, and there's those that refuse to believe in what is real. I was the first kind of fool. I believed in America. I believed in American principles. I believed that we lived in the greatest nation in the world, that we had the fairest and most just criminal justice system. And I even had a master's degree in it, guys. I had a master's degree in substantive law. I had a master's degree in forensics. I was very, very well trained in the justice system, and I believed in the
That blows
Kool-Aid.
my mind too about you, really.
I went to school at the most expensive university in the United States, right? I got a 3.98 GPA. I graduated with distinction on the South Lawn of the White House. Guys, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to justice, only I was a fool because I believed in something wasn't real. Justice isn't real. It's not real because justice would never take one side or another. Truth always lies somewhere between two stories. But when you prevent or worse suppress one side from telling theirs because you have a desire to simply win your argument in your case, Mr. Prosecutor, right, Mr. Judge, then that's not justice. That's injustice, because you're acting unlawfully, contrary to what you're created to do. The purpose of the prosecutor was to ensure that the criminal defendant was given the rights that they were intended to create the best terms of the contract for the breach of obligation that they had. If you go out and you speed in your car, you're breaching an obligation of going the speed limit. And now you need to negotiate the terms of a contract. The prosecutor was there to negotiate the best terms for you, not to oppress you, not to lock you up for as long as they could possibly get. That's contrary to the purpose of the prosecutor's existence. The prosecutor was there for the benefit of the accused. That's the purpose. That's why they were created. The judge, the purpose of the judge was to protect and ensure that the accused gets the guarantees that they're entitled. The purpose of the judge was to protect the minority from the majority. They were there to guarantee the rights and freedoms so that this person is not hurt by the majority. That's why they were supposed to be the guarantors of liberty.
But very rarely is there a majority coming against somebody and wanting them put away.
Well, I mean, what is the majority today, right? The majority crimes today are created by government. Who's the accuser in most of these crimes? Do you think that it's a
They
crime for you to speed
fabricate
in your
the
car?
crimes.
If you think it's a crime to speed in your car, then why are you speeding in your car? Clearly, you don't think it's a crime because you're speeding in your car.
Mm-hmm.
So who's the accuser? Well, it's the state. But why is it the state? Because they benefit financially from you speeding in your car. Guy, it's about a business, you guys.
It's a
They
business.
create a business. They create a business, and because it's a business, every business must make a product. It must generate revenue, and it must pay liabilities. Unfortunately, this business does none of those. But if they do run government as though it's business and believe it's business and tell all of you that it's a business, then you begin to think, oh, well, it's detrimental to the health and well-being of the nation. Therefore, we must protect this business. It's not a business. It's a lie. It doesn't create any product except for slaves. It only oppresses the people, right? But if they run it as though it's a business, then that means that the business needs to generate revenue. And the way that this business generates revenue is at the expense of the citizenry. So this business is creating laws that are in the best financial or fiscal interest of the country, not what's in the best societal interest of the country. They don't care about what the people need. They care about what's going to make the business money because it's all about business. I'm going to destroy this business because government's not a business, right? Crime is not a business. Enslaving people is not a business. And they aren't in the business of robbing from people in order to profit off their illegal acts. They're in the business of protecting the rights and freedoms that were guaranteed. That was the purpose of the establishment of our government. And if we don't return to that, then I might have to step out of the way and let the people do what I know the people want to do. And we don't want to do this messy way. We don't want to do this messy way. That's why I'm trying to make sure that a patriot is defined as one who loves and defends his country. I'm as much a patriot as this nation has ever produced. I'm very proud of that. But if you say that you love your country, but then in the same breath can't say that you love your fellow countrymen, well, I have to say to you that your country is nothing more than an aggregate of the people. So how you treat your people is a direct reflection of how much you love this country. And I can say that that over the last 18 months, every single public official I've met and talked to, and I've spoken to pretty much all of them. Pretty much. I mean, I've been back and forth across the country 19 times over the last 18 months, right? I've met with every single United States senator, almost every single United States congressman. I'm going to say, be very, very careful about calling yourselves patriots. Be very, very careful about that word because that's not what you are. Because the way you treat your people is a direct reflection of how much you love this country, because a patriot is one that loves and defends their country. And this country is nothing more than an aggregate of people. So we need to understand that the way that we treat our fellow man, the chains that we place upon them, the bindings that we permit our government to do to them without us stepping up and saying this is wrong and we're going to do something about this, without being a man and saying this is my obligation to protect these freedoms because of the lives that were lost to give them to me. We're going to honor the dead as much as the living, guys. Then guess what, man? Those shackles that you place upon them, you yourself or someone you love is going someday where? Don't be surprised when they come to you, because when you can take a freedom from one man, you can take it from all men. That's why Thomas Jefferson said, we gain civil rights as a result of choosing to protect and defend the rights of others. If I don't step up and stand against the oppression and tyranny that's occurring to my fellow man, then I have no rights, because by my failure to act to defend the rights, I myself have no rights. That's the way the rights work. So we cannot permit government to continue to do this. We can't say to ourselves, oh, look at what it's going to cost me to go out and do this, right? We can't say, oh, look what they can do to me if I go in and get vocal in this. All we can do is find.
I can't believe anybody would think that at this point. It's like crazy. It's just crazy.
I've had messages
this
just
world
this morning.
Is going to hell in a handbasket. You got to do something about it.
Messages just this morning. Messages just this morning saying, oh, I'm afraid that they're going to retaliate if I do this.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you know what? I mean, I would be afraid of what they're going to do if you don't do it.
Yeah. And not only that, but look at the people who've been doing it, and we were doing it alone, and we're still here.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, I took an oath to the people of the United States. I have an obligation to fulfill that oath. I made a promise to all of you, right? So when I found out that I was doing things wrong, that I was in national security, building systems that were oppressing you, and because we were protecting government from the people, which is nothing more than code word for domestic terrorism. When I realized that I was committing terrorism against the people of the United States because I was on the wrong side, you don't protect government from the people, you protect the people from government. Guess what? My oath said to me in my heart, you better get on the right side or you are a traitor. It was never a decision for me. It was never a choice. I mean, I had a duty and an obligation. I made a promise to people in the United States. I'm going to fulfill that promise. And when I made that promise, you guys, It didn't say that anyone else was going to be with me. It didn't say anyone else was going to come and fight for me. It never said that any reinforcements were going to come, because that oath was with and to the Constitution directly. It was in my heart. I have an obligation myself, and it doesn't matter if anyone else accepts their oath. It's up to me to make that decision. And we all have that same obligation. Every public official, I'm just going to them and saying, "Hey, guys, you're like me. You put this on your heart, and if you want to say that it's nothing more than a goddamn piece of paper, I'm going to say that goddamn piece of paper is what gives you your powers. So don't think that it's going to protect you when you abuse those powers in order to oppress the very people that the powers are designed to protect. There's no sovereign immunity. Don't think that you can break the very laws that give you your powers in order to offend the object that gives you your powers, and then it's going to protect you from the abuse of powers. The Constitution of the United States is not just a piece of paper. It is the very faith of the people of the United States. That's what we believe in. That's where we get our life, our sustenance. That's what we believe. That's what connects America together. We can believe in it. We can believe in it. But we don't. We've lost our faith. We've lost our way because we've accepted this belief that judges make the law. Case law, right? Because if you walk into a courtroom today and you say to a judge, you know what? My rights have been taken away. You file in 1983, you say my rights have been taken away. Where does that judge go to determine whether or not your rights have been deprived? Well, he doesn't go to the object of which his fidelity is bound, the Constitution of the United States. He goes to the flawed decision of the man that came before him, a judge-made ruling that they erroneously called case law. Or the flawed decision of the man that came before him, also erroneously called case law, because judges don't create law. You cannot call case law because that is created by a branch of government that doesn't have the authority to create law. So again, when a branch of government creates something that is not constitutional, and then they direct the people, their agents, the judges, to follow it and not the object of which their oath and fidelity is bound, then they're breaking their oath, right? They're breaking, and that's the
That is
crime
just
of perjury.
crazy to me. I know what you're talking about with the case law. It's just crazy to me that they can use that to win cases. It's unbelievable. It's like anecdotal evidence. It's just like it's a case study, basically, if you look at it in a scientific realm.
Well, I mean, we can even go into scripture, because a lot of stuff that I talk about is scripture, and Jesus said himself. He said, "You Pharisees, you worship with many words out on the streets because you're hoping that people will hear what you have to say and think that you're all." Think about these guys. Look at the rulings that they put into place. I mean, all you got to say, Supreme Court, is yes or no. Yes or no. It's as simple. Do I have this right or do I not? Right? But if you have to write 20 pages to convince me why it says no, I'm going to say you're probably lying to me. Because I don't need 20 pages of back and forth double negatives to try to convince me that you're right when I can read that you're wrong. You got too many words, guys. It's yes or no. Do I have it right or not? That's all you got to say. Supreme Court, that's it. But if you're going to write 20 pages to convince me why you're right, I'm going to say you're a fucking liar. And what you produced is a lie, because you don't get a create law. Judges are tethered to positive law. We know that. Judges are tethered to positive law. Therefore, their rulings must be consistent with the law. So when the Supreme Court of the United States comes out in 1833 in a case called Barron v. Baltimore under the Marshall Court, and they say that the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, that those are not a restriction against the state government, they are only a restriction against the federal government. And as of that moment, not one single person within the purview of the entire United States of America, outside of the 10 square miles of Washington, D.C., was given any of the rights specifically enumerated or protected within the Bill of Rights. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press. No one had any of those freedoms, because the Supreme Court of the United States said, you know what? We know how to govern the people better than they do. We're not going to give them the rights that they enacted and adopted and ratified on December 15th, 1791, because we don't want to give it to them, because that would make our job too hard. Well, Supreme Court, you don't have the authority to amend the law. You don't have the authority to put into place through judicial fiat something that's going to bar the will of the people, right? You don't have the authority to do that. And so, but that's what you did. That's absolutely what you did. And we need to understand that's the reason why today you don't get an indictment by a grand jury, is because in 1833, the highest court in the land said, we aren't going to follow the will of the people. We're going to go against them. We're going to create something unconstitutional. We are going to amend the Constitution of the United States in a manner other than what's prescribed in the special amending procedure of Article 5. That's what we're going to do. And when you did that, you introduced fraud into every single court across the country. Every single court today is continuing to act unconstitutionally because the highest court in the land has directed them to do that in 1833. And until that highest court in the land steps up, corrects the ruling, puts into place the correct order, and directs all the courts to act lawfully and constitutionally, thus eliminating the fraud, nothing that any court in the country is producing is lawful. It's a very, very simple situation. It's not even complex. And when people originally started hearing what I'm saying, they were like, "Oh, this is crazy. Oh, he's just nuts." No, I'm not. Listen to what I'm saying. This is factual. No state can create a law that violates the Constitution of the United States. So when Amendment 1 or Clause 1 of Amendment 5 says no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury, that's clear. You got to have an indictment by a grand jury before arresting someone and holding them over for a capital or infamous crime. That's what the Constitution of the United States says. So when Washington State enacts a law in its inferior constitution, Article 1, Section 26, it says no grand jury shall be drawn or summoned in any county. Now we have a supremacy issue. And we need to deal with preemption because now we have a state constitution, an inferior state constitution, that functions directly to the contrary of the United States Constitution. We have a state that is acting in direct willful defiance of the established procedures and processes, codified in the Constitution of the United States, and now we need to decide which law is supreme. Is the state of Washington supreme, or is the United States Constitution supreme? And that's what I'm asking the people of the United States. That's what this argument at the United States Supreme Court is all about. That's what I'm bringing on behalf of the people of the United States is, what do we believe in? Do you believe in the United States of Washington or the United States of California, or do we believe in the United States of America? Because if we do, then we know the path we're going to have to take to deal with this situation. And that path is going to be the forgiveness of a massive amount of debt, because that debt was illegally and unconstitutionally incurred by a government that had no authority to force debt upon the people. The purpose of our government was to protect the liberty and life of the people of the United States. That was the sole purpose of establishing our government. So when our government breaches the terms of the contract in order to enter into a new contract to enslave the people to financial institutions or slavery institutions that we call sweatshop in China, but a prison here in America, by the breach of the first contract to enter into the second, you have nullified and voided both contracts. Government, you cannot breach the terms of the Constitution of the United States in order to create a new contract with the people, because that would make both contracts void. You cannot breach a contract to enter into a new contract without both contracts. Everything is in our favor, you guys. So I'm at the United States Supreme Court. I'm litigating this as the primary on your behalf. I'm not asking for anything except for your faith. Listen to words I'm saying. Yeah. All I ask is you guys listen to what I'm saying. Love me, hate me, whatever. I don't care. This has nothing to do with me. This has to do with what I believe in. And it's the same thing you guys believe in. So if you believe in the words I'm saying, then just get behind me. Let me litigate this for you. Let me argue for your family. Let me secure the liberties that you're guaranteed by your birthright, and let me complete your faith. Because we all believe in the same thing, and I'm simply fighting for that faith, you guys. That's all I'm doing. And we can do it because that faith is supreme. That faith can destroy any other non-faith. The Constitution of the United States can destroy the state of Washington's Constitution. And if I can do that, if I can destroy that provision of the state of Washington, because that's the primary respondent in our litigation, but we have 34 states that are currently enjoined besides the state of Washington. If I can beat the state of Washington, all 34 states are going to receive through vicarious relief the exact same judgment. I can return into each one of them because I've gone around the country now for the last 10 months, hitchhiking and everything else, because I don't have money, because I don't do this for money. I don't get paid for this. But I do it because it's the right thing to do, because you guys need help, and because I have the ability to do it. So like next week, I said, we're in Tulsa right now, and we're getting ready to leave. In fact, we have to figure out how to get out of town right now because we don't have a place to stay anymore, but we don't have money to do it. So we operate under donations, because there's a lot of people that are in prison that don't have money, you guys. Anybody that's having their rights taken away is having them taken away because they don't have money. They're poor. So how can I expect them to give me something that they don't have, right? But they need help. Attorneys won't do it, right? So I do this because of a higher purpose. I do this because God has commanded me to do this, and because I believe that this is the right thing to do, because it's the thing that's going to help our country overcome the injustice that we're experiencing, the destruction that is happening in our own ignorance, because we permit them to tell us that they make the law, not us. Or we permit them to tell us that, it's going to cost us too much to stand against you. We all have a duty and responsibility to do it. So yes, I've served 34 states so far. I'm going to serve another 4 next week if we get the funding to be able to get a rental car now from Tulsa, get around to those states, and then the following week we plan on going across the top. That means that we're going to be able to pick up all the lower 48. And now, you guys, in 4 weeks, roughly the last week in December, we are in the middle of an affidavit, criminal affidavit campaign. Because I've served the Attorney General, the highest executive officer. I've served the Supreme Court, the highest judicial officer in these 34 states. So they've been notified of the existence of a criminal conspiracy by and between their agents of state. They've been given time to be able to address the crimes and direct their agents to act in a lawful manner. They failed to do so, and so now we have an automatic recusal. All of the judges, all of the prosecutors are automatically notified and enjoined in the crimes, because notice to agent is notice to principal, but notice to principal is notice to agent. So when I go to the Attorney General and I inform him of the crimes through a criminal affidavit detailing very specifically the crime that's being committed across all these states in the exact same format, he has the duty to take action. And if he doesn't, then he himself is permitting it to continue, which means that all his agents are automatically notified, served. So we have every single judicial officer, every single executive officer in 34 states that have now been served notice of treasons being committed by them, and they failed to take action. So we have to continue to build this, because I didn't expect that the attorney generals were going to just wake up and say, "Oh, he's right, let's change everything," and that wasn't going to happen. Because ultimately, the only way that we can deal with this is by getting their boss, the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court of the United States, to accept the fact that you guys are criminals. Everything you've done is criminal. Your whole institution is nothing but a facade, because you're nothing but a bunch of criminals that have never, ever, ever in the history of your institution ever enforced the law. And you are the reason why crime exists here in America, because you guys are criminals. You're leading us toward crime because you're piece of shit criminals. I want Justice Thomas to understand that there is no honor in you. You're nothing but a piece of shit, sir. I want Justice Kavanaugh and Justice Brown and Justice Robert to understand that you are responsible for the destruction of this nation, that you are robbing children of the love and care that they need so that you can create trauma, right, in them, and force them into institutions that, because you want to profit off of the Title 4D Social Security Act. And then long term, you're going to make a self-sustaining product, because that child that you just robbed from the love and care of their family has got an 80% likelihood of going to prison now. And so now think about the I mean, I sat yesterday with a number of CPS families here in Oklahoma, and guys, it's getting harder and harder and harder for me to be able to get through these days. I mean, I don't hardly sleep at night anymore, because I mean, the things that I know, I don't think you could sleep either. I mean, how can we live in this world? How can we believe in goodness of them? It's disgusting, guys. It's disgusting what's happening. And we're doing it so we can profit off this institution. So we can trade it on the New York Stock Exchange in the form of Geo Group, Core Civic, and CCNA, for-profit prisons that are traded on the New York Stock Exchange that deals in the business of human bondage slavery. That's not what we believe in, guys. It's not what I believe in. And it's not something I will ever fight for again. So we are collecting these affidavits from all of you, because you are all victims. You had children stolen from you and your family unlawfully and unconstitutionally, because God made you a mother, God made you a father. Only God can take that away. It's protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, period. Incorporated by the Supreme Court in 1984 in a case called Roberts v. United States. No state can take away your child, period. But when they do, that's a deprivation of rights under the code of law. So we have a very specific criminal affidavit for all of you that have had a child taken from you. Mother, father, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle. You had the right to have a relationship with that child. It was deprived of you without lawful authority by a state that created a law that says that we can take away something that's guaranteed and protected by the Constitution of the United States. That is unconstitutional. So we have a criminal affidavit for all of you. Now, for all of you that have been charged with or convicted of a crime by the United States justice system or system subjected to the jurisdiction thereof, we have a criminal affidavit for you. Only requires 22 pieces of information. Very, very simple. Take you all 5 minutes to fill out. When you fill it out, right, you're then saying that a crime has been committed against me. This is a written evidence of a crime that's been committed against you by an agent of government when they breach their obligation of protecting your rights by relying upon a law that's inferior, that doesn't give them authority to do it. And so when you fill this out, what you're doing is you're saying a crime has been committed, And that criminal affidavit is what's used to create a criminal complaint, which would be the initiation of a criminal adjudication process. Now, again, I said I don't want to do this the messy way. I don't want to do it the messy way, but I'll do it whatever way they require me to do it, because the decision's up to them. I'm going to return to DC on January 3rd with these 500,000 criminal affidavits, and we're going to make this number. In fact, I think we're going to exceed it, but we need all of you on board. We need all of you supporting this. I need your affidavits, right? Every single time that you were arrested by this system, by the state, every single time was a separate criminal offense that you can submit a separate affidavit to me. It needs to go one of 10 consolidation points, 10 post office boxes that we have across the country. That's going to be received by a veteran who has reinstated their oath and decided to come back into active service to fight these treasonous acts being committed domestically by people that are undermining the laws of the United States. So I've reinstated a number of different veterans who are now going to act as consolidation points. They're going to act as evidence custodians to receive this evidence from you, hold it in their possession, and then in about 4 weeks, I'm going to be traveling across the country, pick up all of this evidence. We're going to return to Washington, D.C. on January 3rd. And if I come back with 500,000 criminal affidavits, 500,000, and again, I think we're going to exceed that number. That's 600 boxes of evidence. 600 boxes. We've done the numbers. 600 boxes. I'm going to need 600 people with me to carry these boxes into the Supreme Court, to give it to those justices and say to them, what do you want to do about this? Because these are crimes being committed by your agents, under your watch, in your institution, crimes that are punishable by death as prescribed by law. And if you do nothing about it, then you yourself can become a defendant in the action, because any person who, having knowledge of any of the wrongs conspired to be done, and who have the power to prevent or aid in the prevention of the commission of same, neglects or refuses to do so, may be joined as defendants in the action. Once I bring this evidence back and I give it to those 9 justices, if they do not take action, then every single one of them is, as of that moment, a traitor. And they're guilty of the crime because they knew about it and they're permitting it to continue, which means they can be added as defendants in the action. And we know what the outcome is going to be there. It's going to be very messy, and I don't want to go that way. But we're going to preserve the rights and freedoms of the people of the United States, because we have an obligation to do so. We must fight for every single right, because of not just the living and the posterity and the future coming, because our children deserve to have the things that they're entitled, and we cannot permit our children to be oppressed. What kind of father would I be if I said, well, this is too big, I'm going to just let my son deal with this, and I'm going to go, pretend like it doesn't exist? Nah, that's not a man, you guys. We have an obligation to do this because of the lives that have been lost to give us this freedom. Think about how many battles have been fought, how much peace has been progressed, how many countless myriads of lives that have fallen to secure your freedom. We cannot permit it to be taken, because we can't let their deaths be in vain. So we have an obligation, guys. We have an obligation to step up. And I'm simply asking you guys, go out, get the affidavit, fill it out. It'll take you all 5 minutes. Fill it out for your children, because they had their rights taken away without lawful authority. Fill it out for grandma and grandpa, because they had their rights taken away without lawful authority. Fill it out. Send it in. Get it to one of these consolidation points. Get it to one of my veterans who are now enforcing the laws of the United States. Let me litigate this and advocate for your action. It's not going to cost you anything but your faith. That's it. Your faith. Just believe in it. Let me go and execute the supreme law of the land, and by its execution, I will void your judgments. Whatever the state did to you, whether you served your time or not, whether you're currently serving your time, whatever freedoms they took from you, we will get them restored, because they never had the authority to do it. And I'm a man of my word. You can trust me. You can believe me, because I'm a man of my word. I give you my word. Okay. Thank you guys so much. God bless.
Where can they find the affidavit forms to fill out?
It's been a little bit complicated right now. It's in a couple different places. Okay. So we have a website that's coming online right now. It's weshallbefreetur.com. That's the organization that I have. It's the We Shall Be Free Tour. TOUR, which is touring around the country. I'm touring around the country, holding all these people accountable, because I'm touring the country. I've done, like I said, 19 trips across from coast to coast over the last 18 months, getting to know all of you and what's happened to you, the injustices, so that I can now bridge the gap between what's been done and how do we move forward. This is what I do. And I don't do it for money. I don't take on contracts. I will not fight any individual fight, because I will only fight for all. because everybody needs help, and because that's the only way that I can secure these rights. So I don't go into a courtroom. I don't take on contracts. I don't accept any payments. You want to donate, you want to support this, you want to get behind this, we will welcome the blessings because we can't do this without your help. But money or not, it doesn't change our faith. We sleep on park benches, right? We hitchhike. We have all of our property stolen. I've had 9 cars stolen in those 18 months by the police. It's not changing our faith, guys. They haven't taken me down yet. It's not going to change. I believe in this. You guys can believe in this because all I'm doing is speaking the law that we can all read, the law that we can all believe in. Because this law was established that created our nation. It's in our hearts. It's in our spirit. So I thank you guys so much. But today, there's a website. I would look for that website. It's a We Shall Be Free tour. It's not launched yet. We're hoping to have it launched before the end of the weekend here. The affidavit will be there along with an instruction video specifically telling you exactly how to fill out the affidavit. Like I said, 22 pieces of information. That's it. Date and month and year of the conviction, your name, the county. That's it. It's very, very simple information. You fill it out. Give me 3 copies with wet blue signature. Right. Put it into an envelope. Seal the back of it. Sign across the back. Put legal mail on it, so we have some protections. And then get it in the mail to one of those, to the closest post office box consolidation point that you have. And I'll be coming picking them up in 4 weeks to take them as the final blow to the United States Supreme Court, so I can litigate on your behalf for the deprivation of rights and freedoms that have been caused to you by this government. Thank you so much.
That sounds great. Thank you, Tanawah. I really appreciate you. You bring so much hope for justice.
I've had a good teacher, guys. I can't accept any responsibility for it. I can be very proud of myself for having made the decision to do it, but I can't claim any credit for it, guys. All glory to him, because I'm only doing what I was created to do, and we can all do that. So, guys, be proud of yourselves, but just remember that a man of integrity can only be proud of the man that he is at all times. So if you don't have integrity at all times, even when people aren't looking, then it's difficult to call yourself a man of integrity. So have integrity. Do the things that you say that you'll do. Fulfill the obligations that you make, and stand up for those that are being oppressed around you, because that's what makes America great. I love you guys so much. It's been a very, very, it's been a pleasure serving all of you. It's been an honor to be able to do this, and we're going to get this done. We got 42 days, and I promise, I give you my word, as crazy as it might sound, I see things that most people can't see. We're going to get this done. Please get behind it. And if you can, please donate. We definitely need the support. We need a rental car for the next few days. Thank you guys so much. God bless.
Yeah, you can donate if you can help. He's got Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, and Chime. All of them are We Shall Be Free.
Yeah.
So
yeah. The user
simple.
for all 3 of them is We Shall Be Free. That's it. We Shall Be Free. WESHALLBEFRE. We Shall Be Free. And, like I said, we only operate on donation. So we can only do what you guys permit us to do. So if you like the service I'm providing, if you believe in it, if you want to see more of the service, I'm going to need you guys to help me do it. We have 4 more states we're going to bring up this week. Get 4 more enjoined so we can bring in the people in those states, get them the freedoms that they're entitled to, that they've been denied their entire existence. And then we're going to be back on the road next week. Guys, it doesn't do me any good at all. I don't get anything at all out of going into the Attorney General in West Virginia and the Supreme Court of West Virginia and Serbia, because I'm not impacted by those laws. I won't see a cent if West Virginia loses. It doesn't do me any good. I don't get nothing out of that. I'm doing it because it's what's necessary to get the freedoms secured for all of you. And I do it because I believe in it, because God's given me that faith. So I'm only out here living my faith, living it out, because faith without action is no faith at all. So if you guys are inspired by the things I'm saying, if you were inspired by the discussion we just had, I would ask you to get out there and live out your faith. Mirror what I'm doing in your own community. We don't have to be afraid of criminals. If the police are committing crime, go to that chief of police and let him know that his people are committing crimes. He's not going to change. We know that. But silence gives our consent, and it's going to permit them to continue to do it. And we cannot permit our government to continue to oppress us and remain silent any longer. Do something. Take action. Love you guys so much. Thank you.
Love you
I have to get going. We have to get out of out of where we're
Yeah.
staying. So we got to get going and get it down the road. We're not
Thanks
sure
for
what's.
taking the time to talk to us. I really love talking to you. And yeah, let me know as soon as that website comes out so I can
Yeah.
post it.
I will. We also have it on Facebook. You can go to my Facebook page. You'll have to scroll down a little bit, but there's links to it. It takes you to a Google Drive, a link. That's the best that we could do on such a short notice.
Is that
But you can
on
go
your
to.
pin? Is that on your pinned?
No. So the pinned is a different purpose, and we don't really have time to go into that. But the what's pinned is a spreadsheet. Yes, I would recommend that you fill out that spreadsheet for some very specific reasons, but they're legal strategy that we don't want to go over. But you're looking for the criminal affidavit. Just scroll down. You'll see
All right.
a post, and it says, here is the criminal affidavit for deprivation of the indictment by a grand jury, and here's the one for the interference with the familial unit. They're two different affidavits. They have an accompanying video that explains exactly how to fill it out, where to send it, and so on. You can do it that way, but if you guys, you have 4 weeks to do it. So if you don't find it on Facebook, just keep watching on my TikTok page, on a Facebook page here. I have a YouTube page here as well. You guys, you're gonna see it, and more importantly, this is gonna hit the news, you guys. You're gonna hear about this because this can't remain quiet much longer. We've reached that level. 34 state attorney generals and state Supreme Courts have been served with specific criminal affidavits identifying the treasonous acts of every judge and prosecutor across. How long do you think they're going to be able to keep this quiet, you guys? I mean, they're doing a very good job at keeping me quiet, but eventually someone's going to blow the whistle on this. And when that happens, this is going to just explode. So, don't lose faith. I might be one man, but I got some power behind me that comes in the form of faith. You guys can believe in it because it's the truth. Thank you guys so much. I need to get going. God
right,
bless.
thank you, Tanawah.
Thank you all.
We'll see ya.
Yeah, we'll see you later. Bye.
Yeah, we got the cojones to do it. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I will get back to you. I've been sitting here for a while, so I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to do a reading today, though. That reading that I got about Tanawah's mission. It's funny, like one of the things he was talking about was them having to compensate people for what's been taken, and that's exactly what I got. That these people are not going to they're not going to go through the ego death. They're not going to transform, and they're going to end up in a huge tower moment. And and then they're going to have to compensate everybody and bring everybody that stability has been torn down due to their acts. They're going to have to prop these people back up again. So anyways, yeah, clarity's coming in and transformation, restoration. And I like this card that came up too. It was the inverted pyramid. This structure is being turned upside down. Here's the tower to the devil. It came right out. In defeat was right next to the devil. Tanawah's beating him at his own game. He's got the knowledge to do it. So yeah, this was a really good reading, and it's coming. His victory's coming in soon. So y'all, thanks for coming in and supporting my friend Tanawah. I just love his mission. It's all of our mission, really, obviously. And yeah, I will get back to y'all very soon. Love you.